I think it was Winston Churchill that said, what is success? It's the ability to go from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm.
Oh.
You know, and the three things that we talk about in our book, obviously about ADHD, are obviously focus, discipline, confidence. And I always think, hey, look, enthusiasm, focus, that can get you started, but what gets you finished?
Yeah.
So I can come into September at the beginning of my school year and focus, and this is going to be the year I turn everything around. And then, unless I start installing some disciplines, some habits, some practices, then I don't make it to the finish. So learning how to pick up those habits of moving, getting started, I'm excited, I'm enthusiastic, I can see what I want, I can see the goal. How do I finish though? I seem to always get to a certain part in every book and then I just put the book down. I could show you my bookshelf and I've got 50 books that are maybe 25% of the way read.
Right.
So how we get to the end?
And then Pete, you've been working the whole time. You've been reading, but you never actually finish a book. And so it's not like you've been doing nothing, but you wind up thinking about yourself as somebody who's lazy or unable to do that. And you've been working the whole time. You just don't have anything to show for it. It's kind of like when I was cleaning up the house on Sunday. I was working all over, but I never finished even one thing. I felt terrible.
Right.
So,
well, what offsets, you had mentioned the negative, cycle of failure. There's also what offsets that which is the positive cycle of success. We've got certain beliefs that lead us to take certain behaviors that we get results, which reinforces our beliefs, which reinforces how we take behaviors, which reinforces the results we get. Yes. And the beauty of a cycle, or the downside of a cycle, if we're talking about the negative cycle of failure, but the positive cycle of success, a cycle you can enter at any point during that cycle and you can start to get that wheel spinning. So if I'm looking to turn my failure around and I want to turn it to being positive, I want that positive cycle of success, well, it might start with a little tiny success like you mentioned. And if I can, let that success, let that feedback lead me to believe something a little bit different, then I'm likely to change my behaviors. And if I'm likely to change my behaviors, now I'm likely to see a little bit more results in that direction, which reinforces the belief that I can do it, which reinforces my behavior the next time around. So looking at that cycle of success versus the one of failure, how do you get somebody to see the world from that perspective? Is that all an internal thing, or does that happen externally? Is there something from the outside that can be done to affect that change from somebody to get from one to the other? What do you think you would do?
Well, sometimes people are just depressed at this point where they've been having one failure after the other. And that's where having a great coach can be really helpful. A great coach can help them set their goals properly so that they can be successful. So if you're setting the wrong goals, or if you just have this idea of, I'm just going to do it better this time. So that's one thing I hear in my office a lot. So how are you going to do next year? Oh, I'm going to do better. Like, how? What are you going to do differently? One big principle, which sounds really obvious, but it doesn't occur to a lot of people, is that if you keep doing the same thing over and over, you get the same result, right?
Agreed.
There's the old chestnut of the saying right there. But, you probably see this when people come to your dojo and they say, I just want to get in better shape. Like I want to do something better. Mm-hmm. Probably it's helpful for them to identify what exactly they want to do better so that they have a target to aim for.
Well, that's the idea of we get into goal setting. We think if you don't have a goal that's specific, your odds of reaching that target really dramatically decrease. So if I just start wandering in the right direction or looking for the sunset, but I happen to notice, hey, wait a second, I'm wandering east, well, I need to be a little bit more specific with what I'm doing. I have to know, hey, what am I going to do specifically to get me to move in the right direction towards my goal? Once I'm specific, then it unlocks a whole other host of things that are going to show up. My commitment, my drive, my discipline to stay on that path. But if I don't have that specificity and I don't know specifically what I'm aiming for, you can't hit the bullseye of a target that's not there. And that's the first piece of a goal setting process, is learning how to be specific. But there's other steps to it too.